Good afternoon. It is afternoon. Yes, good afternoon. We are live-ish, kind of, sort of live. So give me just a second just to make sure that we are showing up in all the places that we're supposed to show up because I have to go through this every single episode. And yeah, it's fun already. Uh, LinkedIn pulled the wrong one. And
Oh,
so, yeah,
no.
let's see. All right. So we are live on LinkedIn.
Awesome.
Instagram decided to tap out today.
Okay.
And so now I'm just going to check Facebook and then we are good to go. Facebook, we go live, but it never like shows anybody that it's always private.
Huh.
So, fun fact there. All right. So we are on. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn. It's official. So, happy Thursday and a super hot summer everywhere in the world apparently. But I am Tanisha Stallnaker. I am the CEO of SVS. We are your go-to group for anything related to systems, automation, web design, and SEO. And I always give the disclaimers of life that can happen, which is why it's Entrepreneurs Unplugged. The dog's in the house. He is, I think, made himself comfortable. Angela's just watched him shift me a couple of times. And so you might hear snoring if the other dog barks. Anything's possible. But the kid's been fed, the husband's been fed, so everybody else should be good to go. But I want to welcome my guest today, Angela Williams. If you would like to introduce yourself and give any warnings to people, feel free to do so.
Yes, thank you so much, Tanisha, for having me. My name's Angela Williams. I'm a licensed clinical social worker turned coach. I'm also a new mom. My disclaimers is that I have my 10-month-old with me. He's hanging out over here in his little chair. So he might decide to voice an opinion, make an appearance, push my chair around as well. We got dogs, we got husband working, we got lots of stuff going on. So we're just doing it live today. I am the founder of Angela Marie Coaching, and my passion is helping leaders to elevate their potential, expand their impact, and enjoy their life.
Wonderful. And the baby, I have to tell you, is absolutely cuddly adorable.
Thank
Like,
you.
I mean, Care Bear level, cuddly adorable.
So I
And
have a fun fact. We actually submitted him for the Gerber 2024 Baby of the Year, and he did not win. I mean, I don't know if you saw, but the new baby was announced. It was
I
not
saw
him.
the winner, so I knew it
Yeah,
wasn't him.
you saw the winner. Wasn't him. But he didn't get any of the categories, and we were just like, really. I mean, like, I think every parent thinks their kid is like so cute. I'm
He
just
is.
like, dang, no categories at all.
Well,
So, fun fact.
sad other fun fact. I am not built to tell you your baby is cute if I don't think they are. I just won't say anything.
Listen, strangers off the street will come up and say something. I'm like, okay, I feel like we got something here.
Yeah, he's cute, but more importantly, he's cute and cuddly.
Yes,
He's
very
not
cuddly.
like a scrawny baby. He looks like
Yeah,
a fat, happy baby, which is
yes,
awesome.
Cabbage
So
Patch. Yes.
those are my faves. All right, so that's not what we came here to talk about today. Um, but I could get derailed real fast. So if he makes a noise, just know this live's going left, and me and the baby are having a conversation for the rest of the afternoon. But you chose, and it makes sense, leadership and mindset, especially for busy entrepreneurs. And so I normally ask why somebody picked the topic they picked. I don't really feel the need to ask you why that topic. I guess, given that you are a licensed clinical social worker, I will reframe the question to ask what made you pivot into this level of coaching and why was that important to you?
Yes, that's a great question. So, I think for me, when I think about my mission, which is to, um, I've had a few different iterations of my mission, but really it's all the same. So that I'm raising contributing to raising the collective impact of women and impacting future generations for good. And I thought to myself, how can I best contribute to that mission? And for me, it's like baby stuff. For me, it is, helping our leadership because I don't know if you've ever worked in a position or a job where your leader was just not a good leader
Oh yeah.
and it caused stress to you, it caused stress to your team, the operations did not go well, and it's like that's just one example, in maybe a corporate setting or an educational setting or wherever that is. It's like that's everywhere, right? Like we have so many different types of leadership in politics, in influential leaders, as a public figures, right? Celebrities, right? All of these things. So thinking about the people who have the most reach, I want to make sure you're good so that you can help ripple impact people around you and people that will come, in future generations so that we can build a better world.
I think that is awesome. And to your point, if I had to think of every job that I've had and do it in a percentage, um, I would say maybe 20% of the leaders that I've been exposed to were people that I actually felt confident calling them a leader.
Yeah.
The rest were just people in and we are about to talk. So sorry,
He
guys.
agrees. He
Real.
agrees with that.
He's like, amen, sister. Yeah, most people, honestly and sadly, especially when it comes to any type of environment, most people that are deemed leaders are just people that might have had the degree or they've worked the place that look good on paper. But
Yes.
whether it's their communication skills, their actual ability to lead is subpar. And there he is, people. There he is.
These are the future generations. This is just a visual aid of the future generations we're talking about here.
I'm completely derailed. You are beautiful, but I'm pretty much basically just going to be talking to your son the rest of
Just done, right? Yeah. No, and I agree. I think about different leaders who, just got there because of the. Thank you, Tracy. Just got there because they were just there at the right time. It's not because there was raving reviews from their, colleagues or their employees, that they were amazing. It's not. They were just there at the right time. They greased the right palms, etc. And that's, again, what does that really do for the organization? What does that really do for the mission? I don't know. Right?
Well, I can tell you that as somebody who was a recruiter for years and years, for I would say the better part of like 12 years, I either was in recruiting for more than half of it or I was in like marketing. And I can say that like in every category, poor leadership affected every aspect of the business. It made it nearly impossible for me to do my job as the recruiter because here I am trying to support someone getting a role with the company. And yes, I wasn't just filling in warm bodies. I wanted somebody who was really talented, but it was really hard to sit in front of somebody who I knew was super talented, that I knew that this leader was going to basically run away in a record amount of time. And here I am trying to represent the company and talk about the great culture, knowing that it's a lie.
Right.
And, that I'm crying in the car before I go walk in myself. And here I am the face of the people of the company bringing people in. The poor leadership literally affects every aspect of the organization.
100%.
And
I actually recently published an article about this on my blog, but there was a few different stats that, and I think one was like up to like 70% of people left, and they cited that it was due to their boss, not the job. They liked the job, but it was due to their boss. And so, again, I think the other tricky part to this is like, leaders who are at that level of rough, if you will, sometimes do not have the awareness to even know or seek help. And that's a whole other, ball of wax. But that's why specifically I love working with entrepreneurs, because I think not everybody is designed equally. Actually, we just had a client who was working with a difficult supervisor who didn't want to let go. I think that's like the biggest thing that I hear with people in my sessions is that their CEO does not want to actually let go and delegate where it's needed. And that will be, the bottleneck of success for that company. So that's a difficult piece. But I think, a lot of the entrepreneurs that I work with in service-based industries, the ones that really prioritize their self-care and self-growth, that is who is willing, right, to show up for themselves and for their people and to grow in a way that's going to be able to make that big impact, that ripple impact. And so, I left jobs that were in the social work field for many reasons, but, low pay, high turnover rate, high stress, right? Long working hours, right? These working conditions were just not sustainable.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a passion of mine to help people build businesses, build lives that flow together and that are sustainable. And that's one of the things that I hope to, as I continue, to build my teams and, help people advocate for themselves about this, is to really have the freedom and the autonomy to build cultures that support the mental health and well-being of a person, looking at them holistically, and be able to create a sustainable work environment and life environment.
I like it. So I know that I have my thoughts on why certain people are not good leaders.
Yes.
And let's just take the monsters out of it.
Yeah. Right.
People are just jerks. So, and and they're going to be jerks no matter what they do. So let's just take them out of it. But take the person who wants to be a good leader,
Mm-hmm.
but is not self-aware that they're not. Sometimes I find that their lack of confidence creates like this whole lack of trust,
Yes.
that they don't trust being vulnerable at all. They need to appear perfect at all times.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, they hold everything super close to here, and they don't delegate, thus making themselves more stressed out. And then it's like a ripple effect of this cycle where, because they're not the self-care part, like self-care wasn't even a word I heard in corporate, like not never.
Right.
And so I had this like laugh to myself when you mentioned it. It's important, but I could say that without a doubt, the majority of leaders that I ever worked with, that they would have laughed in my face if I didn't use that phrase.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I think that the feeling of feeling threatened, like they constantly are sitting in a position of, especially if they're not the CEO of the company, where it's like, if the people below me are too good, then they'll surpass me.
Yeah.
If the people make a mistake, then that reflects on me, and then I'll lose my. So it's just this constant like hamster wheel of a lack of trust, a lack of self confidence, and then paranoia. At least the leaders, excuse me, at least the managers that I was like sitting under. It was always that, and it created such a toxic environment where everybody was on eggshells all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Heaven forbid you get sick, be human. I could think of places that I worked where they praised you never taking a day off. I know, because I didn't take the day off.
Right.
And it was like, I got like an employee recognition for perfect attendance, essentially.
Yeah.
And being there every day for like a year and a half, and including working from home. If I did go on a vacation, which was very rare, I worked during the vacation. And I remember being so proud.
Yeah.
Like it was an accomplishment. And it took years to realize that was terrible. That was absolutely like the wrong direction to go in, and, the wrong thing to be recognized for in the organization. But I've seen it multiple times.
And I've had my own, story with burnout, and that also revolved around, spending too much time doing work focus instead of fully taking breaks, fully taking my mind off of things, doing too much, right? Getting involved in way too many things. That's typically my pattern I really got to watch out for. But behind that too, there was a mindset, and this is what I want to also highlight as leaders to think about and to do this. I really want to plead with you to do this deep work, because our subconscious beliefs are what drive that behavior. Because if you had a different subconscious belief, you'd be like, screw this, I'm not going to work on vacation, you can take it, bye-bye, right? Or whatever, right? Like that's a different thing. So understanding, and that takes a bit, right? It sometimes takes really involved assistance to understand what those subconscious beliefs are.
Yeah.
At this point in my experience, my career, with all the self-work that I've done, with all the work that I do with other people, I can trace my behavior, my thoughts that are conscious to my subconscious beliefs in like a minute. And it's because I do this all day, every day, right? But it's like to a point where I would love for everyone to be able to do that. So that when you understand, the level of awareness, number one, is such a huge piece in helping you to overcome whatever the thing is, the pattern that you're trying to break, or the goal that you're trying to get to. So the awareness in itself is super helpful, but the rewiring of those beliefs too is going to be the sustainable solution. And going back to your point about, work cultures and celebrating that you don't take a day off. Like I would never right after I come Thursday, I mean when
He has something to tell you.
he's gonna be a singer, we are pretty sure. Um, but I couldn't imagine saying that. I had an intern. I think it was 2 years ago now, and I was like, please go take the rest of the week, whatever. If you have a final, like it's like, did you get your stuff done? Cool, great. Did we get most of it done? Great. Whatever is needed, right? Of course, like we have a job to do here. But it's like, how do we strike this balance and this fluidity and this flexibility? And how do we start as a leader incorporating that in our work cultures? And so I think like that's other pieces to think about too, is like, how do I create the culture? And even if you don't have your own business, but you do have some power and authority, how can you create that in your own environment, right? Wherever you are. So I think that's the other thing people are scared to do, is how do I, set my own policies, right, within this larger context that's bigger than me, but figure it out, right? Like how can we do that? Well, that's a great question. Let's answer it.
I know for me, when I decided to start bringing on team members, and even when I was in corporate and I would have people that reported to me, which I'll be very honest, it wasn't until probably after 2010, I take that back. There's periods where I was like, I had people, but I really avoided that for years because I didn't trust the organizations that I worked for
Right.
to be in a leadership position, because I'd already seen what had happened to previous leaders.
Yep.
So I would be very honest, like when they were like, oh, you want to go up for this promotion? Absolutely not, because I've seen what happened to the last 3 people. No, let me sit here in, my uncomfortable box where at least I could just show up, do the work, get paid, go home.
Right.
But for the times that I have had people report to me, and even now with the team that I have, I think for me, the biggest thing is I looked at the examples of leaders that I did not enjoy or places that made me miserable.
Yep.
And so the first step was identifying what that was and then looking for ways to avoid it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was like, if I don't do anything else as a leader, but not do what they did,
right.
then that's already the beginnings of a win,
Right.
But I think the other part is, after I at least got that part established, I've always, and I still do now, and I laugh because I can tell it throws people off a little bit. Sometimes I just ask, what do you think we should be doing?
Right.
Asking someone else's opinion or thoughts, and mean it.
Yeah.
And not in the sense of whatever you say is exactly what we're going to do,
right.
But you're here, you're in it, you see it every day.
Yes.
You might see things differently than I do.
Yes.
And your perspective actually might be the right one,
Right.
or a combination. But if I sit and just decide that because I'm the leader, that I'm the end all be all of opinions, decisions, and everything, then it starts that dictatorship culture that I've hated.
Power dynamic. Right. Yeah. And I think that's a great theme of the work that we can do, is like, it's like asking ourselves these very important questions. What did I see around power dynamics growing up? What were relationships looking like? What were the, what was my relationship to power? Did I feel powerful? Did I feel powerless? That stuff shows up as the dictatorship when you're a leader in these situations, right? Really it shows up, and it's like, I can see it clear as day, right? Of course, because I've done all this and you can see it, you've had the experience. But it's like, it's sad to see that. Because, thank you for my kiss. We also have to make sure he doesn't bite now, because he has 2 teeth and they're very sharp. So we have to,
It's like super cute, but it's not.
So. Yeah, it's like adorable, and then it's like, no, bite, right?
Adorably terrifying. Yes.
Yeah, but it's like, and I think of examples that, I know of people that are still in leadership positions, and I'm like, you have so much healing that I wish you would do for the benefit of yourself and your employees, your team.
Yeah. Everybody's focusing on the baby.
Everyone's like, sorry, we don't care what you're talking about.
Everybody's just focusing.
Yeah, the baby is the show stealer here.
Yes.
You want to say hi? If he could talk, y'all, he would take over. He would take over.
Hello. Oh my goodness, why didn't he win a category? Like, look
I'm
at the
telling
cheeks,
you,
how
squishy
thick
face category. Come
oh,
on, something.
between the cheeks and the hair.
Yeah.
Like, there had to be something. Hello, little face. How are you? Oh my gosh, I wish you lived closer.
I
Oh,
know, I know, I know. I'm like, I would take a rotation of anybody, all my work besties to come on in. We can rotate, holding the baby, doing calls, whatever you got to do.
he's looking like I don't even know how I got here, but
Right.
okay.
I see. Do you see yourself? Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's the other thing too, is like, I think when you're in a position where you ever think to yourself, like, I don't need to work on that, or I'm good, nothing's wrong with me, like, think again. I'm not saying that we need to be in therapy 24/7. I'm not saying that. As a therapist, I'm not even saying that, right? Um, because there's time to process, there's time to pause, there's time to relax, there's time to just like be, right?
Yeah.
But there is such a duty, I feel like, for leaders.
It's like a constant, well, not constant, but there has to be some like self reflection periods of things
Right.
where it's like, whether it's reevaluating, and it's almost like, so kind of, sort of, but not really. When I talk to people about systems and processes and the importance of systems and processes, I'm like, nothing in business or entrepreneurship or leadership should be like a set it and forget it. Like, I took
Yeah.
that training that one time and I was a good leader that Tuesday. And so it's just going to last forever. There's always a part where you have to like look and say, how did this last quarter go? Were there any missteps?
Yes.
Were there things that you need to course correct? So there, everybody needs to be open to that evolution.
That
You know,
feedback. Absolutely.
I'm everybody right now because this year has definitely been a challenging year because the market has shifted and everything.
Yeah.
And there's no handbook. There's no handbook that says, hey, well, I'm sure somebody on Wall Street probably said it and I wasn't looking, but there's nothing that says to like a micro business like mine, hey, just, in
Right.
3 months, things are going to get slow.
Yeah.
So you should prepare by doing A, B, and C. It's not that way. I wish it were, but it's not.
Right.
And so there's always a part where there's like, okay, so things have changed. What do I need to shift and change?
Mm-hmm.
How do I need to show up differently? Or how do I need to lead the team differently? How do I share this with them? So there's always that evolution. And it's annoying from time to time, but it has to happen. I'm curious. So I would imagine if somebody's coming to you as a client, there has to be some level of self-awareness, even if it's, I think I'm a good leader, but I'm not sure if I'm going to hire Angela. Or,
there's a desire, right? To even if you came in and you're like, I don't know what's wrong, but I just want to like investigate. I just want to do an audit. I just want to like see if there's any areas I could improve, just on the off chance that I might need to improve something, right? I remember I had a client come in, she's definitely got like an entrepreneur spirit, and I mean, just super bright and amazing. And she's like, I don't really have much to talk about, maybe just a couple things. And then, here it is, like, a year or two later, and we're still going strong. So it's like, it's that whole idea of the growth mindset, right? I know that there's something that I can learn and take away. So even if you approach it as a learning opportunity, an audit opportunity, right? A feedback loop opportunity, a problem solving opportunity, that's all available. When we do coaching, when we do therapy, that's all available to you as a leader.
Yeah, I'm curious how many of your clients, like, since you focus on leadership and mindset, how many clients do you encounter that might be strong leaders, but the mindset part internally or whatever is still just a mess? Or that where you find more resistance on that side? Or is there an area that you find more resistance between the leadership versus the mindset part?
I think that self-aware leaders know that there's always something that they keep somebody on staff, right? Like, you have a therapist on staff, you have a coach on staff. I usually keep one of each on staff, like I call it my on staff, but whatever, I keep them at the ready in whatever journey I'm going through. So becoming a mother, I really had to lean into my therapist for that, with all the stuff that came with it. trying to grow back my business after being on maternity leave for so long, which I didn't plan to do. I hired a sales coach to kind of get me redirected. With the resistance piece, I think, as leaders, we're human beings. We all have our own stuff. It's messy. It's, up and down. It's like, just today, like I've been doing so much work in I'm actually working on some deep money subconscious wiring now. And, my problem is I'm impatient. So that shows up all the time. So I'm like, I'm doing all this work, what the heck, right? Like frustrated about it. And so like I need to then process that and, have someone talk me off the ledge too and say, hey, it's okay. I know that I could do it to myself, but hearing it from somebody else is just so powerful because you're like, okay, it's not just me talking in my head, right? Yeah. As far as the resistance goes, I mean, I just think, we all have our resistance to a certain point. It's almost like we have to walk to a certain point and then we say, oh, now I can see over there. Like, it's like, I can't really see over, over here until we get to a certain point. And that's doing that deep internal work, that mindset work. But, we all have our traumas. We all have our blocks. It's just figuring out what those are and how we want to rewire those and how we want to move forward and put that strategic action to it.
Well, I joke that every time I have one of these episodes, there's at least a part where I feel that somebody's like looked me up and realized that they're talking to me or about me. And so the one thing that I've definitely had to work on, and I am absolutely a work in progress. I am generally self-aware of a lot of things.
Yeah.
Including my absolute level of stubbornness when it comes to getting support for myself.
Yeah.
Coupled with impatience because I did do therapy last year. And it's so funny because like my daughter, my friends were like, you're literally like the only human we know that's not in therapy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, my husband's not either. So we're both like,
it's just us, right?
really stubborn over here.
Yeah.
And so I did try it. And I stopped, admittedly, because that impatience of like, I didn't feel bad walking in here, and I don't necessarily feel good or bad a month later, but it's like, could I be doing something else?
And that might be where for you, that's a really good example. So this is how I like to kind of talk about the differences between coaching and therapy. So for you might just need a coach, right? Yeah. Because if you don't want or need to delve into the stuff, right? Like the traumas, or maybe you feel okay, or you just don't really want to, right? That's more of the therapy, right? So it's like we are standing here together. We are noticing what's happening for you now. We're looking back in the past. We're resolving and healing what's in the past with a sprinkle of where we want it to be in the future, right? Yeah. With coaching, we're standing here now. We're talking about what's going on. We're looking toward the future with a sprinkling of going back in the past to figure out, what brought us here. Yeah. So I think it's where you're standing now and where you want to be looking is going to be for you. So if you are focused on the now and how do we refine and make things better and how do we improve and move forward, that's going to be coaching for you.
Stop right there. Is he saying words?
What?
Is he saying words?
He's saying dada and mama and baba.
Okay. So I'm not
dog is like dada sometimes too.
Well, it's so funny. So he's like chatting into this whole conversation.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, my dog, every few seconds, I could hear his head like perk up, like, what noise is that?
Yeah.
I'm like terrified and mentally preparing myself for 140 pounds of curiosity to come jumping over my shoulder any moment. At just the right decibel from the baby. It's coming. People.
I hear you. And sometimes when he gets to a certain pitch, the dog loses his mind. He's like, I'm like, oh God, now they're both crying.
Yep. It could be the day that it all just falls apart. And I knew Tracy was going to chime in.
Thanks, Tracy. Yeah.
This is a big focus for her as well, especially in her business and how she works with her clients. Yes. And she does a lot of different wellness events.
Good.
Where people have an opportunity to be in a safe space and talk and be surrounded by people who might feel the same way or differently, but being able to have just those open conversations. And so,
we need all the safe spaces, Tracy. Keep it going.
yes.
Yeah.
And hers occasionally have wine. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. So
Yes.
conscious consumption is her thing. So I'm a big fan of that one. But you got a
Yeah.
baby, she has wine, it's all my
I get it.
favorite thing.
Well-being events. Good. Good.
Well-being events. I stand corrected.
I
So,
love that. I love that wording. Yes. Yes.
so you're really making Tracy happy because that was something that she had spent some time really thinking about.
It's intentional. Yeah, no, I get the intentionality behind it, especially like I think for me too as a therapist in the coaching space, I try to be very cognizant. Like there are other coaches that say, let's heal your stuff. And I'm like, let's rewire your stuff. That's how I approach it in the coaching space and the therapy space. I'm like, come on, let's heal all of your stuff. And I'm very intentional with wording, so I try to be anyway. So I think that's a good distinction.
Well, not to mention of just knowing your audience, the person you're working with.
Right.
Because if you came to and approach somebody like me, especially on the type of like talking about leadership mindset and use the word heal, I'm already going to be like,
yes.
pause,
Yes. Right.
Not because I'm perfect, I'll openly admit that, but that's really just not the area that I'm really stressing, focusing on, as opposed to growing and evolving from where I'm sitting today.
Right.
Healing to me feels like I'm about to go 20 years back in my past,
And yeah, and maybe that is, right? And it's like, do we want to do that? Maybe not right now. Maybe later. Maybe when, right? And so like that's where you get to decide. And that's where, figuring out what's more appropriate for you, especially at this time.
So in your current practice with your clients,
yes.
I guess, so I know with the social work side and the therapy side of things, the online space has definitely grown in those areas.
Yes.
But it's also had to evolve in how it can like be structured legally, whether it becomes like if you're licensed in a certain area where you can offer that service and where you can practice and all of that. But taking that part out of it, I guess, how do you balance the coaching versus the therapy side? And is that led by the client or is that led by, how's that flowing?
So my clients that are, Tracy knows you, Tanisha. My therapy clients, actually right now, the way that I have it marketed, my therapy clients are specifically coming to me for trauma support. So those are I tend to attract more like leader types and business owner types. So they're similar clients, they're just on a different part of their journey, if that makes sense.
It does.
So yeah, my therapy clients might be on their journey here, and then my coaching clients might be on a journey over here. Maybe they've already done the foundational trauma work or other related deep work in therapy. So with the bridge, or I guess the commonality, what I'm doing is I've taken the tools that I use to work with my therapy clients in trauma. What I do is I take the tools that I've learned there. So one example is going to be EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And I take that and I've recalibrated it to use it in the coaching space so that we can still work on, reshifting and, rewiring your belief systems. So even if you worked through some trauma, let's say, but like, let's say you've had a trauma about public speaking, 6th grade, right? I'm like, we can all go back to somewhere in middle school and it's terrible, right? So let's say you've had that trauma for public speaking, but now you're a business owner, you want to get and you want to do a TED Talk, right? You have that desire in you. So now the opportunity of this larger stage and this visibility is bringing up self-doubt for you. Where's your Cassie, baby? Is bringing up that self-doubt for you. And that's where we get to go back and maybe you don't need the trauma work there, but what you might need is that affirming and that setting in of a new belief that you got this no matter what the stage, right? So that's something that I'm taking, I take my tools, all my expertise from the therapy world, I bring it to the coaching space and use it where it's appropriate. In a way that's appropriate, right?
Do you need to pause to get his passy? Because I see him.
Sure, that would be super great because I just don't know where it went. He must have chucked it.
Well, naturally, because
obviously. Why else would we not have it?
That's how this works.
Yeah.
He's like, Mom looks pretty busy. Let me throw this up.
Let me just throw this over here. Right. Yeah. So, can you still hear me or not so much?
Yep, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's not even plugged in. Like, I don't even know. Okay, sorry, y'all. Okay, it's literally missing. Like, I don't even know where it could be. He probably like
a master.
Yeah, like he ninja that thing. It's gone. Okay, totally fine. We're just gonna.
So the funny thing is that, well, not funny thing about the conversation. I love this episode for the completely right, wrong reasons. I literally wanted this to be entrepreneurs showing up how real life looks for them.
This is real.
And so, like I joke about my dog, but if he could, he'd be sitting in my lap as well, staring at the camera and also crying from time to time about something that he's not getting. But because that's my daily life. I'm not that entrepreneur that gets up, gets in the car, drives, and leaves and goes and sits someplace. I'm in the house.
Yeah.
And so I'm homeschooling. I'm doing all the real life. So you're doing the real life things. And although I've invited all the guests to be like real life, everybody's like avoiding it.
Yeah.
Possible. Yeah. And so it's like when you messaged me to say that he was going to be on, I'm like, we'll talk. We're talking, But Deanna's loving it. Yeah. So I want this to be like the real thing because this is what's actually happening. This is how we're running businesses is with kids and dogs.
We're building businesses, right? Like this. We're on face.
And it's just him looking around like he's just trying to find something. Like if I could get my hands on this thing right here,
yes,
I'm good. My day is made.
Right.
So I'm gonna have a last question because I feel like he's only going to give you but so much time.
Yeah, we got a couple minutes. We got a few minutes here.
When you have that leader who's already built the team, they've built the thing.
Yes.
And then they have the realization of, oh shit, I might have done this like too dirty here. What do you find are the biggest challenges for the people? They built the business, they built the team, and now things are starting to be on fire and they're realizing that it might be them.
Yes. So like the best thing they can do in that situation is to pause and get some support so that they can have the clarity and literally right under my chair. Here you go. So that they can have the clarity and they can have the time to pause. And again, like I said, do the audit, recollect. I've known some business owners that are like, I built this huge business. I built this big agency. What did I do? I don't want this. I'm exhausted. What happened? And it's like, wow, this is an awesome thing you built, but that doesn't mean you have to keep it that way.
Yeah.
Right. So it's again, that constant, and not constant, but right, it's that regular interval of checking in with yourself, getting clarity, processing what's going on, and checking in with yourself. Is this aligned with me? Do I still desire this? I mean, we all have different seasons, right? I shut my businesses down when I had a baby. That was that season. Now I'm ramping back up. This is this season. Yeah. And so, it's taking lessons learned from all of that, right? And so, when you get to a point in life too, I mean, like, we've got people who are, navigating health issues and being family caregivers and, chronic illnesses and, just wanting to be with their kids more because maybe they worked a lot when they were this age or whatever, right? I've heard it all. And it's fine to pivot. It's fine to do that. It's just how do we make sure that you are taking the time to check in with what you want and seeing if it's aligned for you in this season and what you want going forward.
I love that. And I appreciate you sharing that. The reason, and I asked it intentionally because even though, yes, business owners come to me or my team for like systems type things, it's amazing how often the leadership mindset stuff shows up.
Yes.
Where they've come to us maybe unknowingly or in some cases knowingly, completely burn out.
Yep.
And they come to us burnout saying, oh, it's because we don't have systems, we don't have automation, I got too many things on my plate. And then we get in there and we're trying to ask questions and they are paralyzed with every question that we ask. You
Yeah.
know, like when I start talking about what's your process for this, and it's like deer in headlights.
Yeah.
And so in many cases, then I start to pull them to the side and have these conversations. And now I realize that you've been drowning and you went and just hired 5 people with
Yeah.
no real guidance. And
Yeah.
again, former recruiter, I'm like, ooh, now I
Yeah.
see why you're freaking out. And
Right.
all of these things come to light. And I, again, when I say leadership, and I said at the beginning, affects all aspects of your business.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the number of clients that we're just building and automating things and they're on calls with me in tears
Yeah. Yeah.
because they needed to get it off their chest to somebody. And where I'm looking at it like, I don't want my team to have to deal with the tears because they're focused on doing the work. So
Right.
bring the tears to me. Let's
Yeah.
do saw together. Let's
Right.
get it to a point where we can at least finish the project
Right.
and see where things go from there. But that leadership piece, the mindset piece, it really can grow or derail.
And that's where you might then say, here's a therapist, here's a mindset leadership coach now. So you don't have to deal with the tears either, right? Because here's the thing is like people are coming to you probably as the Hail Mary time. They've done all of this stuff and now they're running on fumes and like, oh crap, I really, right? And again, that goes back to the foundations. What's the clarity we can provide working together proactively? Up front, don't wait till you have an emergency. Don't wait till you're so exhausted. If you feel like you're starting to be, get someone to come help you.
Yeah.
Work this out first in your brain, align with your desires, then go hire people, then go put the systems in place. Because you might just be throwing batteries, band-aids on the situation. God bless.
Batteries and band-aids and everything.
Well, things that aren't sustainable. So yeah, and that's where that proactive approach can really support, and that's
I agree. One of my catch-22 phrases that I hear from potential clients, and I say it catch-22 because it's complimentary, but it's like also a warning where I hear, I wish I'd met you before I did this, or I wish I'd hired you or your team before I did this.
Mm-hmm.
It's great that they acknowledge that we take great care of them, but it also typically means that either A, they're burnout and it's going to be way more work for us. Yeah. B, they're financially tapped out because they've thrown money at things that didn't work. And now they found a solution in us, but can't afford it anymore. Right. It's like that. You're great. And however, at the same time, this is where things are, and I used to really stress it where it was like, how do I get to people before everyone else? But that's not realistic. That's the goal, but it's not realistic. So I just kind of I've just had made a decision that, well, yes, now I know to refer them if it's a long-term thing to you for that type of mindset work and help. But at the same time, I also know that I'm perfectly equipped to deal with tears and not soak it in.
Right. That's so important.
People come to me with tears because they know I'm not, if you cry, I'm not crying. So, I'm going to sit here and support and wait for you to finish. And then we're going to keep going on into what we're doing. Right. I'm going to have you laughing through those tears at some point.
There's so many tears in service-based businesses, no matter what you are, right?
Yeah. So, I love the idea as much as possible of people getting the support before they're past the point of needing the support. It doesn't mean you can't get it, and it doesn't mean you can't get there. It's just much more work.
Right. Yeah.
So, and it probably costs more. At least it does with us. So, because you're doing more correcting versus just straight moving forward.
Exactly.
All right. So, final tips. When it comes to leadership, mindset, things like that, what are, anything that you haven't covered, but like top 3 things? It's like, if these 3 things are happening, we should talk.
So the things that I'm always working with my clients on, and the things that you want to make sure are tip-top shape, is your vision. So thinking about, what's the sustainability for you in your business, and thinking about, when these different seasons come up, like, kids, having to take care of parents, illnesses, right? Like all of these different things. I'm going to launch a whole info campaign on preparing for maternity leave while you're an entrepreneur, because wowza, was there not really any information for me for that. Aligning yourself with the life that you want, the business that you want. And I mean that in the ways of mindset, in the ways of your energy, right? In the ways of your emotions. We talked about this, about the burnout, right? Like if we're just going, we're not doing any reflection, it's not going to be aligned because you're not getting that feedback loop and being able to refine and make the corrections and, make things the way that you want them to be. And then embodying, making sure that you're always embodying your values of how can you make things easier for yourself, and really expanding and growing into the leader that you want to be, leading the business you want, leading the life that you want.
I love those, and I'm doing a few of them, whether I wanted to or not.
Yes.
Because I am that person that has this time of year is always hectic because we have so many swim things and I have so many commitments, and I shift from business owner leader to more mom things.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. It took a while for the first few years to battle it out, but I have to understand that either A, I have to shift the types of clients that we take on so that there's no drop financially,
right,
or I have to be okay with the fact that there might be a drop financially because I'm not as mentally or physically available to do certain things.
Right.
And where I used to really, really be super hard on myself about this time of year, I've stopped because I'm like, it proof is proven that it didn't help. If anything, I finished the summer completely burnt out and carried it into the end of the year.
Right.
And so it's like the only thing I can change is shifting how I look at it, being prepared because it's coming every summer.
Yep.
And I also get to add the health things and all of that on top of it, which is great. The same way that you didn't have a handbook for maternity leave, I didn't have one for going out on medical leave and surgery and all of that stuff.
Right.
But I'm happy that I'm at least doing some of the things that you recommended when it comes to like the self-reflection and really making sure that you are good with where you're sitting today and good with where you're heading.
Yes.
So I appreciate you being here. Did he fall asleep?
No, he's just playing quietly on the floor.
Well, look at that. I was like, he must just pass out. So, I appreciate you both for being here today. And, his unintentional interview.
Yes.
And I'm still very offended on his behalf that he didn't win a category because absolutely.
Wow.
Cabbage Patch category should have been like a thing.
Right.
But I appreciate you. Where can people find you?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast. I love talking to you. You can follow me on social media at the Angela Marie Williams, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You're welcome to connect with me, all of those places. I have just scheduled some pretty hilarious reels, if I do say so myself, on Instagram. So that's going to be the funny place. But I'm definitely hosting a shift mindset, emotional, I don't want to say coping skills, but really ways to regulate your nervous system. All of that's going to be covered in the next masterclass, and that's July 10th at 2 p.m. So definitely reach out to me if you want to be a part of that. I would love to have you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And definitely check her out and check out the masterclass July 10th. And so, as always, if you are not subscribing to us on YouTube, please do so. You can find us at Work with SVS. And of course, we're on all the socials. Some clips of this replay will be shared on TikTok, Instagram, and things like that. And so you can find us pretty much everywhere but X. And so, as always, thank you so much for joining us. Just a quick reminder, we have a few more episodes for the season, and then we're going to take a break because it is the summer. And so then we will bring it back in the fall. But we have a few more amazing guests left for this season. And so, of course, you can catch any and all replays online of Entrepreneurs Unplugged. Until the next episode next week, have a great weekend. Hopefully it's not super hot where you are, and enjoy the rest of